Good day everyone, welcome back to our YouTube channel. I am Teacher Alan. So for today's video content, we will be discussing and talking about series of topic in part with the subject 21st century literature. The commonly asked question to you student by your teacher when we talk about literature is that, what is poetry? You heard it right. We are going to discuss or talk about poetry. Based from Merriam-Webster dictionary, poetry are pieces of writing that usually have a figurative language. You're right, figurative language that are written in separate lines, often have rhythm and sometimes rhyme. Well, we can say that poetry is as old as the human language. It can trace itself back to a time before the written word. It is usually sung also rather than spoken. That's poetry before. Please note for that. To add more, this man named Jimeno Abad termed poetry as the root and crown of the language. Let us talk about now the long history of Filipino poetry here in our country. Filipinos are not stranger when we talk about poetry. Why? Because this has been part of the Filipino culture ever since the pre-Hispanic times. There are many pre-Hispanic form of poems existed in our country. Kung ang nais mo ay ligaya sa buhay. The awit or song existed in many forms and were used in varied purposes. Another form of pre-Hispanic poem is the riddle or bugtong. Riddle or bugtong use metaphor that help us to convey the answer in the given riddle. The sawikain or salawikain, also known as the proverbs, are forms of poems that uses pieces of wisdom that be important to the Filipino culture. The major pre-Hispanic poetic form here in the Philippines is epico or epic. These were long, episodic, chanted poems that usually tells us a story about legendary heroes that is being aided by supernatural creatures and spirits. Just like Bayag ni Lamang. The arrival of the Spanish dramatically altered for what was already established in the Philippine literary tradition. The method of writing, called the baybayin by Tagalogs, are being suppressed together with the existed poems and epics during that time. The priors called these masterpieces as blasphemous because of the presence of the supernatural creatures. Passion is being introduced by its religious form and being popularized by Gaspar de Aquino and perpetuated by Mariano Pilapil. One of the notable poets during the Spanish era is Francisco Baltasar, the author of Florente and Laura. This is because most of his works depicts the tyranny happening in the Philippines during that time. There are illustrados during the Spanish era, and one of them is Jose Rizal. Jose Rizal, together with the others, make masterpieces that shows the growing sense of the national identity of the Filipino. They use these masterpieces to fight for the freedom here in our country. Even Andres Bonifacio contributed a lot to the Philippine poetry through his masterpiece entitled Pag-ibig sa Tinubuang Lupa. We Filipinos learn not only the importance of language but the style in writing. That's why different poetic style emerges as time passes by. The pre-verse and true criticism become the buzzwords of the poets. Angela Manalang Gloria and Jose Garcia Villa envelopes both of these forms in their masterpieces. Indeed, poetry has continued to evolve in the face of the changes it has faced in the history. Newly modern style in writing blooms in our modern era. Most of us use this as our voice to express our emotions to the certain issues that we are facing as of this day. That's why poetry plays an integral role here in our country. Hope this video helps you a lot in answering the queries or questions by your teachers in his or her subject in 21st century literature from the Philippines and the world when you talk about poetry. So see you on our next video as we discuss the next topic or lessons in this subject. Bye!